Connecticut banned the Glock. Not the Glock switch, the Glock itself. The handgun. The same one that's carried in the holsters of police and other law enforcement all over the country. Their handgun of choice. Banned. Okay, not the Glock specifically. They can't ban a brand because that would be an unconstitutional bill of attainder, but they banned handguns with a cruciform trigger. What is a cruciform trigger, you ask? It's the kind of trigger that's in a Glock. It refers to a component that links the trigger to the sear. We've described in the past the function of an auto-sear, which recycles the gun automatically so it can fire more than one bullet with a single function of the trigger. In other words, it's what makes it a machine gun under the law. In a Glock and Glock-style handguns, the cruciform trigger pulls directly against the trigger reset spring. When it actuates, it kicks the slide and activates the firing pin. After it fires, the cross-shaped structure at the back pops up and prevents the striker from firing again. That's why you have to release the trigger before you fire again. It catches the striker between shots so that it won't fire again without another trigger function. It's actually a safety feature. But there's a hitch. Glocks have a removable backplate. And since the cruciform is the only thing standing in the way of the striker, then if you remove the backplate and install the switch, it's actively obstructing the cruciform so it can't pop back up and catch the striker. And that turns the gun full auto, meaning it'll spit out all 15 rounds in 3/4 of a second. And with the lift that comes after every round, since there's no time to readjust your aim between shots, you destroy whatever the gun is pointed at, and then maybe 1 or 2 ceiling tiles. What it's not good for is that movie-style scene where a guy just mows down a room full of people all at once. Your classic movie scene is really only firing 3 to 5 rounds per second, so you can get that sustained fire over a longer duration, which feels a lot more dramatic and menacing. That's not going to be a Glock switch. A Glock switch is going to make the gun fart really loudly and destroy one thing pretty thoroughly. Either that or it'll jam the gun, which seems pretty likely. It might also overshoot and overpenetrate, seriously risking property and bystanders, which, if anything, is the real danger. Really, it sounds like you're better off in terms of control, lethality, and legality by just using the Joe Biden-approved 12-gauge. So that's what Connecticut has banned, along with extensions to its ghost gun ban to include unfinished frames and lower receivers. Connecticut sold this ban by claiming they were going to ban these full auto switches, but those were already illegal. No, they banned the entire pistol, specifically the standard issue sidearm for the cops they claim to support. The sneaky way they did it is in using the term cruciform trigger bar. That's the exact language the law uses and exactly what it bans. It's not the switch, it's the trigger safety itself, the thing that stops it from being fully automatic. And they made it a felony punishable by 5 years in prison to sell a gun that's been immensely popular in America for 30 years. In the name of banning something that's been illegal since 1986. Criminals weren't buying these from dealers. They were getting them on the black market from China or machining them in their garage, as evidenced by the fact that most of the switches that showed up at crime scenes were either cheap 3D prints or low-quality handmade metal parts. The people with the switches were already felons, so who is this bill targeted at? Someone who wanted to buy a perfectly legal Glock in a perfectly legal way. The Supreme Court in Heller said that the government can't ban a handgun that's already in common use. So how do you ban a Glock handgun without using the terms Glock or handgun? You say cruciform trigger bar. First, it was machine guns, then assault rifles, then assault weapons, then assault-style weapons. Now it's a pistol made with a certain drop safety. Every few years, they have to invent a new term to scare you with and pass a gun ban before people actually have a chance to see what it actually says. Banning a gun that legally can't be banned just by changing a definition. There's already a lawsuit against a similar bill passed in Maryland. Going back to what we said earlier in this edition, even the simple handgun, the one that somehow evaded every other gun ban they've passed, is now falling victim to the power-hungry narcissists that are the gun control nutbars. This is about banning all guns. This was always about banning all guns.